Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've ever looked at a new skill, like, say, learning a language, picking up an instrument, or maybe trying your hand at coding and felt instantly paralyzed by just how much you don't know, well, this is exactly what you need. Today, we're going to permanently dismantle that fear. We're looking at some absolutely fascinating insights from author Josh Kaufman that'll show us how to rapidly learn literally anything without having to sacrifice your entire life to do it.
First things first, do you feel like you're just way too busy to learn something new? Honestly, who doesn't? Kaufman shares a brilliant, incredibly relatable story about this. A few years ago, he and his wife welcomed a new baby daughter, Layla. They were both entrepreneurs, working from home, and between running the business, the intense sleep deprivation, and just trying to figure out how to put clothes on an infant, he had this terrifying thought. He thought, I'm never going to have free time ever again. And as a guy who absolutely loves fiddling around and learning new things, that was a heartbreaking realization. If you're out there juggling work, life, and family, you have probably felt that exact same anxiety.
So being a self-proclaimed geek, Kaufman decides to hit the cognitive psychology textbooks. He wants to research exactly how long it takes to acquire a new skill. And everywhere he looked, he kept running into this incredibly intimidating number, 10,000. The infamous 10,000-hour rule. You know the one, right? It pops up in books, on websites, literally everywhere.
Now, to put that number into perspective, 10,000 hours is the equivalent of working a full-time job for 5 solid years. 5 years. If you're a beginner who just wants to learn how to play a song on the guitar or maybe speak enough Italian to order a coffee on vacation, staring down the barrel of a 5-year full-time commitment, that is utterly demoralizing. No wonder we quit before we even start. Who on earth has that kind of time?
But here's where the story takes a really wild turn. That 10,000-hour rule, it's a complete myth when it comes to everyday learning. See, Dr. K. Anders Ericsson at Florida State University originated the 10,000-hour concept, but his research was strictly focused on expert-level performance. We're talking professional athletes, world-class musicians, chess grandmasters, people at the absolute top of ultra-competitive fields. But society, well, society played a massive global game of telephone with his research.
Here's how it happened. Back in 1993, Dr. Ericsson publishes his specific findings on elite experts. Then, jump to 2007, Malcolm Gladwell writes the mega bestseller Outliers and makes the 10,000-hour rule the centerpiece. It hits the top of the charts, stays there for months, and suddenly, the message gets completely mutated. The idea of 10,000 hours to reach the top of an ultra-competitive field morphed into 10,000 hours to become an expert, which then became 10,000 hours to become good, and finally, it landed on the totally false idea that it takes 10,000 hours just to learn something. Just like that, this massive mental block for beginners was accidentally cemented into our culture.
Okay, so let's flip the script and look at reality. When you actually dive into cognitive psychology and look at the studies of skill acquisition, you do not find a 10,000-hour slog just to reach basic competence. You find a completely different learning curve. When you start something new, yes, you are grossly incompetent and you are painfully aware of it. But with just a little bit of practice, that early level of improvement is incredibly fast. You go from knowing absolutely nothing to being reasonably good in a shockingly short amount of time.
So the million-dollar question is, what is that magical short amount of time? How long does it actually take to get reasonably good at something from scratch? Well, get ready for a massive sigh of relief. The real number is 20. Just 20 hours.
20 hours. Let that sink in for a second. To go from zero to astoundingly good at a brand new skill. And if we break that down, it is highly, highly attainable. It's just 45 minutes a day for about a month. Even if you skip a couple of days here and there, 20 hours is an incredibly accessible goal for almost anyone, no matter how busy you feel you are. It completely disarms all of our remaining excuses, doesn't it?
The Playbook, 4 Steps for Intelligent Practice.
Now, there is a major caveat here. You can't just fiddle around aimlessly for 20 hours and expect magic to happen. You need a specific strategy to really maximize that limited time. So here's the high-level roadmap of the 20-hour framework that's going to guide your skill acquisition journey. Step 1, you deconstruct the skill. Step 2, you learn to self-correct. Step 3, you remove barriers. And Step 4, you practice for the 20 hours. Let's break each of these down because this is the exact formula you'll use to overcome that beginner's intimidation. All right, Step 1, deconstruct the skill. Most things we think of as one massive, intimidating skill are actually just big bundles of smaller skills. Take tennis, for example. It's not just playing tennis. It's a bundle of serving, hitting a forehand, a backhand, footwork, all of that. If you break the skill down into those smaller pieces, you can identify the most crucial parts. By practicing the most important things first,
You drastically cut down the time it takes to see real improvement.
Moving on to step 2, learn enough to self-correct. Now, this one is a trap so many of us fall into. You should gather 3 to 5 resources, things like books, DVDs, or courses. But listen carefully to this. Do not use learning as a form of procrastination. I know I do this. You buy 20 books on coding and tell yourself, oh, I'll start actually coding on my computer right after I finish reading all 20 of these books. No way. That's just procrastinating. You want to learn just enough material so that when you sit down to practice, you can recognize when you make a mistake and immediately correct yourself right there in real time.
Next up is step 3, which is absolutely critical in our modern, hyper-connected world. Remove barriers to practice. You need to use a tiny little bit of willpower before you even begin practicing just to clear the runway. Turn off the TV, put the phone in another room, block the internet on your laptop if you have to. You got to eliminate those physical and digital distractions that constantly derail your consistency. Make it as easy as possible to just sit down and do the work.
And that brings us to an incredibly important psychological concept, the frustration barrier. This is that emotionally painful early phase of skill acquisition where you are grossly incompetent and you are painfully aware of it. Feeling stupid doesn't feel good. We all hate it. But recognizing this barrier is absolutely vital because it shifts the blame away from your intellect. It's not that you aren't smart enough. It's just a completely normal, expected emotional hurdle that every single beginner on Earth faces.
Which leads us perfectly into step 4, practice for at least 20 hours. This right here is the ultimate psychological trick. By pre-committing to the full 20 hours before you even start, you give yourself the structure you need to push through that frustration barrier without quitting. You accept that it's going to be annoying at first, but because you've committed to the clock, you don't walk away. You stick with it long enough to actually reap the incredible rewards.
Case study conquering the ukulele. Let's ground all 4 of these steps in a fun, tangible, real-world anchor. To test his own theory, Kaufman attempted to learn the ukulele from absolute scratch. First, he got the instrument, but he quickly hit a wall. He opened a chord book that had literally hundreds of intimidating chords. But remember step 1? Deconstruct. He realized he didn't need hundreds of chords to play the songs he liked. He found out from a pop comedy band called Axis of Awesome that almost every pop song from the last 5 decades uses the exact same 4 chords: G, D, E minor, and C. By totally bypassing the 100-chord book and focusing exclusively on those 4 magical chords first, he massively accelerated his learning. And the result? Well, during his TEDx talk, right as he literally hit his 20th hour of practice, Kaufman pulled out his electric ukulele and flawlessly performed a joyous, epic pop medley. He played Journey, The Beatles, Bob Marley, Jason Mraz, the whole shebang. All of it, just by mastering those 4 chords and intelligently practicing for 20 hours. It's a triumphant, really joyous result that brilliantly illustrates that this framework actually works.
So now, I want to direct this right back to you. Want to learn a language? Have you been putting it off because you thought it would take years to be able to hold a basic conversation?
Or how about this? Want to learn how to cook? Are you totally intimidated by massive recipe books? Maybe not realizing you only need to master a few fundamental techniques to start making incredible meals for yourself?
The ultimate guiding question is this: what lights you up? What is that specific skill you've been too intimidated, too fearful, or simply felt too busy to try? Imagine dedicating just 45 minutes a day for the next month to that exact thing.
I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought from Josh Kaufman. The major barrier is not intellectual, it's emotional. It is simply the fear of feeling stupid. But guess what? Now you have the playbook. You don't need 10,000 hours. You just need 20 hours and a smart plan. So go grab your version of those 4 ukulele chords, push through that frustration barrier, and go learn something amazing. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to go tackle your first 20 hours.